But one thing I would like to watch and see and look for again is, are these two characters sharing one ring, or do they have one each?
Well, I know in the comics they all have their own.
Lanterns is the newest DC TV series coming out in combination with HBO. It stars Aaron Pierre as John Stewart and Kyle Chandler as an older, grisly Hal Jordan. It also stars Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, which was a surprise. And also, we've seen his Guy Gardner in Superman. This is said to have been, great casting. It's said to be a combination between Supernatural and True Detective.
Fun fact too. Nathan Fillion's also the voice of Green Lantern in the Justice League movies.
Yeah, the Hal Jordan, though.
Yeah, Hal Jordan in Justice League movies.
I was actually super surprised he was cast as Guy Gardner and not Hal Jordan, because I think James Gunn is looking for diversity between his lanterns, I would say.
Yeah.
And Guy Gardner obviously is probably the more abrasive.
Well, see, Guy Gardner technically should be like a jock.
Yeah.
Like a stuck-up jock. And
I feel like he acts that.
Oh, yeah, he does. But I look at that feeling and I don't really see a jock. Like I don't see like a Leatherman wearing football dude.
No, I only see him wearing cop uniforms.
Yeah, same.
But speaking of cops, Green Lantern Corps is the police force of the galaxy.
It's time to get up, Junior.
So, you're a space cop.
No, I'm just being trained.
Who's that girl?
Listen. Take the ring and fly.
Just fly.
I'm sorry. Fly, please. What's that?
You're the backup quarterback.
For now.
I love that. Oh.
What do you think is going on?
It's no accident we're here. These victims are gonna end up being alien.
Based on what?
I have a feeling.
He has a feeling.
I think this is more than just a feeling.
This is a threat no one's ever seen before.
What do you know about
thick.
Manhunters?
Where'd you hear that word?
Manhunters are the most dangerous beings to ever exist in the galaxy. It could take the form of any species.
So it could be anyone.
He's gonna send an army to put you
Who's
down.
he?
Do you resent Hal Jordan?
The ring's always been mine. Jordan's just keeping it warm.
The prison.
Sinestro.
That's Smith.
You don't really believe he's your backup, do you, Hal?
No.
Let's say what he actually is.
My replacement. In brightest day, in blackest night, no evil shall escape my sight. Let those who worship evil's might beware my power. Green Lantern's light. How about a beer?
There's the charm. There's the charm. Okay, my first thoughts of this one obviously was the mention of the word Manhunters, and I think it could be one of two things, because Manhunters, I think everybody's mind automatically goes to the Martian Manhunters, but the Manhunters were also a intergalactic police force that were enacted by the Guardians before the Green Lantern Corps, and they were essentially robots. They could take on any shape, but they were, as all robots do, taking things a little bit too seriously in terms of justice, and the Guardians needed to replace them. So they wiped them all out and replaced them with the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
So it could be either one.
So we did see a Martian.
Well, you'd never know if that's a Martian or a techno-organic robot that is changing itself.
Look like a
I'm
Martian?
not too sure. To look like a person.
No,
Like,
that was a. If we go back and you stop it on that, go back to something there. Is 100% Martian because it's 100% the Martian uniform.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're just sold by the uniform, but you know that these creatures can also change into any form they like. Like, I don't know.
But I think also like the use of the word alien instead of, techno-organic.
Yeah. Well, remember he said,
used.
they're aliens, I have a hunch.
Yeah.
And
But also what throws me off is the fact that if that's the case, depending on which sort of comic and which show and which thing you follow, either there's only one Martian left, or there's still more Martians, but only one Martian Manhunter.
Well, we did see kind of like a red planet and then a skull. So whether that's the wiping out of the Martians, maybe.
Yeah, or the wiping out of the white Martians. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're looking here as well at the, like if we're talking about the Manhunters, they went rogue. There was obviously the Sector 666 massacre that they did as well because of a flaw in their programming. And I feel like the villains are going to be these robotic Manhunters, and maybe they're throwing in those aliens there as the victims of these Manhunters to start with. But they're obviously coming to Earth, taking these victims, changing faces throughout the show as well. It's going to be more dark, more secretive, and I feel like it's got like an Old West sort of style to the episodes.
Yeah.
My thing is, we kind of got like the hometown America that we were looking at, but then there was also those larger than life places like the prison and things where we saw Sinestro being kept as well. So keeping it grounded, but then also looking at the wider universe of the DCU that we kind of had a brief look at in Supergirl as well. Will be interesting to see how they marry those two together.
It looks good on paper, and I get where they're going.
I think as well, this series will act as a passing of the torch because Aaron Pierre's John Stewart is obviously a young, in-training Green Lantern to the point where he sees himself as a backup, but Hal Jordan knows the truth that he is, in fact, his replacement, and kind of mirrors those Old West sheriff sort of handoff style. The old roughened police guy is sort of at the end of his rope. He's getting too old for this shit. And the new guy is sort of coming in. We talked before about how Hal Jordan usually goes well when his personality is sort of wisecracking, a little bit jokey, but this definitely isn't the case with the Kyle Chandler version that we saw. I mean, we saw a little bit of charm at the end where he was kind of looking at opening the beer, but he's kind of abrasive towards John Stewart in his training methods.
He's trying to, because he could coddle and take his time. But I think in the back of Hal's mind, I think Hal, and as he had that conversation with Sinestro saying, he's like, no, he's my replacement. I think Hal knows the end is coming for him. I think it might have caught up to him quicker than he probably thought. And he has to train John quickly. So instead of him being on coddling him and taking the time to train him, he's like, you got to fly before you can jump.
Well, here's the prediction then. Here's the question I'll ask you. Do you think at the end of this Lantern series that Hal Jordan, played by Kyle Chandler, dies at the end of the Lantern series as a physical passing of the torch as well as a symbolic one? It's been noted that Aaron Pierre's John Stewart will be in the next Superman movie, Man of Tomorrow. Yeah. So he's the carryover, and we know Guy Gardner also appeared in the first Superman movie. So the question remains, like, will Hal Jordan's character die in this series? As
I don't think he will. So always and forever, they've always been able to have multiple lanterns in. So I reckon Hal's passing the torch on to John, and John will help Superman in the next Superman movie, and he'll be around. But I reckon eventually Hal might end up going to, and he might be like a instructor for the Lantern because he's in retirement mode.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be darker than that. The way that this has been marketed by DC, I feel like he is on a path toward failure, or as many primary quarterbacks, once they get towards the end of their career, they start to do drastic things to stay in the game, and maybe those drastic things actually take him out of the game quicker or lead him down a path that is impure and not looked at well by the Guardians. That sort of falls into a line with the 1994 storyline Emerald Twilight, where he kind of took on the Parallax persona. That happened after a very big personal tragedy, though, where his home city was basically destroyed. And then he went and took on more of the Green Lantern's power from the battery that he should have, and it infected him, basically, and he ended up becoming Parallax and becoming an ancient parasitic villain. So whether that happens or not, I'm not too sure. But Hal Jordan has been known in the comics to be a tragic character that suffers a terrible end.
Yes, but the thing is, he's always usually come out of it.
Yeah, he definitely did. As in comic books, he returned and is the Green Lantern active once again, and the most brightest shining light of the Green Lantern Corps.
And that's the thing, because Hal Jordan is the
guy.
He is the Green Lantern. He's the Green Lanterns other Green Lanterns have to aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
Even though every Green Lantern's vastly different. Like,
I'm going to say as well, I love Kyle Chandler.
Oh yeah,
as an actor.
Yes.
Absolutely amazing. I think he's going to do a good job as Hal Jordan. My interpretation of the character in my head, though, I'm not sure if he's going to play it like that.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to have to fall in love with a different version of the character.
I was hoping to get a Hal Jordan redemption, young Hal Jordan. I don't mind it being the old Hal Jordan passing on his wisdom, but I reckon he's going to survive purely because I think John will have to save him, and that's when John will be like, I'm ready to be the new Lantern.
Yeah. That's honestly how these mentor stories usually go. The student always overtakes the master, but I feel like John Stewart is going to be the purer version of the Lanterns in this, or Hal Jordan is going to be so marked by tragedy or his past.
John always is, because John is a cop.
Yeah.
And so his line of justice is always usually like straight and narrow, like on the straight and narrow. Like he's
lawful good.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes to a fault.
Well, he comes off as very humble in this trailer. Like, he's talking to the lady at the bar and he's not really bragging, and he's trying to learn the role as best he can. And it also seems like he's not trying to take over from Hal, but Hal's conversation with Sinestro tells me, and his facial expression when he was talking to him tells me, that he's fearful that he will be replaced by John sooner than he would like.
Yeah.
And whether that's something that eats at his fear or eats at his pride, I'm not too sure, because a lot of the marketing towards this is centered around, are you afraid? Do you fear? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, Sinestro was
synonymous with
yellow
fear. Synonymous with the Green Lantern lore and mythos, because as you said, the Yellow Lantern ring is the ring of fear, which takes over Sinestro, who was a Green Lantern, which may be why we saw him in the prison. Interestingly as well, Hal and Sinestro were good friends. And I find it
Sinestro was his mentor.
Yeah, I found it interesting that he has gone to see him. It'll be interesting to see as well what ties these guys, because it's set in Nebraska, in like American heartland. So what ties these two characters to this location to care that these things are sort of going on the ground level? I know that they've got a duty to serve and protect on a galaxy sort of level in the sector, and if the Manhunters are orchestrating these crimes, but it's like the setting of Nebraska was interesting to me in terms of it's so far removed from like Star City or space or anything that they could have done with them.
I'm trying to remember where John was a police officer. I'm pretty sure he was in the city as a police officer. But I'm pretty sure John I think he was in the army, and then he became a police officer, and then he became a Green Lantern. But on the sort of same sort of note, I hope that they don't ruin John's style. So each Green Lantern has their own style. Hal is very imaginative with the things he uses. Hal's never really been overly militaristic. He's always been creative. That was his biggest thing. He was always great. He does like making jets because he's a pilot, but he's always been creative, using baseball bats for things like baseball mitts and like all these like weird contraptions in the animated movies and in the comics and stuff. He's always sort of more thinking outside the box with things. Guy Gardner's always been.
He's kind of like a bruiser, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a bruiser. Like he's like brick walls and bloody steel pylons, but also like fuck you sort of things, like how like in the movie I think it was pretty clever how like he uses the finger to nothing.
Yeah.
Like it's also Guy Gardner. He's cocky.
Yeah,
cocky,
exactly.
cocky. John is the militaristic one. John's the one who always uses like military
also-
things.
Yeah, and he also has a background I've read before in some of the comics as an architect as well.
Yeah.
So he has that artistic, I'll say, background, but architects draw things very linearly.
Yeah.
So all of his creations are always sort of machinery that works in a particular way, so he can imagine it and create it, but then also the buildings and things that he would create with his ring would also be very precise.
Yeah.
So I think that comes out in his character too, from what we've seen from the trailer, because he does seem like a very calm, think first kind of character. Whereas if I look at the way that Kyle Chandler is playing Hal Jordan, he seems to be a little bit more impulsive or act upon his feelings a little more. We saw with the water being thrown on him and the way that he's verbally chastising John as he's sort of training him. And John is there very much accepting the advice and the role that he is kind of taking on as well. But one thing I would like to watch and see and look for again is, are these two characters sharing one ring, or do they have one each?
Well, I know in the comics they all have their own.
Yeah, but I always thought that John Stewart got Hal's ring after Hal passed. Hal got she got
Yeah, he did in one adaptation. That's where Hal Jordan seemingly dies, and his ring flies off and finds John. And then you see Hal. He is brainwashed and becomes a bad guy.
Jordan is said to also have the strongest amount of willpower, which is what powers the Green Lantern.
Yeah, and because he's generally always happy-go-lucky, all about like, and it's a detriment to his creative side. Like he has that imagination that he always thinks he can think of something to get him out of trouble. Like he always has that hope. Like he always has
To his
hope.
detriment
Yeah.
sometimes too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like to a fault.
Yeah, like because if something does go wrong and something bad does happen, that's usually when it hits him the hardest, because he always thinks that he has enough hope and enough ingenuity to get him out of any situation, and then when it doesn't, it hits him usually pretty hard. Especially when it's something to do with his like loved ones or like someone close to him.
100%. But yeah, even in the poster art that we're seeing for the Lanterns TV show, you can see that Kyle Chandler's Hal Jordan is standing on one side, and his hand is obviously illuminated by a ring, and Aaron Pierre's hand is not illuminated by a ring. So that leads me to believe that they're possibly sharing one ring, and also all of the talk that they're doing about replacements and things like that. I feel like Hal is giving John his ring to practice with, but he hasn't been given his own yet. And maybe that will occur within this TV series, or maybe Hal will hand the ring over to John, and something else will happen to Hal completely. I'm not too sure.
We might just retire.
Yeah. Honestly, with this series, when I'm watching it, I'll be more interested to see how the dynamic between those two Lanterns go, as opposed to the answer to the mystery of who's solving the murders. And I think that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.